What's up, everybody? It's Connor and Joshua with Chamber One Tactical. Today's video is going to be about probably one of the most enjoyable products that we have been able to review in a while, which is the Cmmg 22 conversion kit for an AR-15. This little thing was I was a little skeptical of it at first, but it ended up being a very fun conversion kit and product to review. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing we're going to discuss real quick, just so that you guys know, is going to be the value of this product. And I'm going to let Joshua explain that because this is actually his purchase. So,
yeah.
Joshua?
Yeah, so when I was looking into this, most websites were selling them for around $230.
Okay.
Palmetto State is where I purchased this one from. It was at $154 for just the bolt and just one magazine. And then we just recently saw where they have a deal for $179 where you get the bolt and 3 of these magazines. So,
which is a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So the price kind of varies, but there are deals out there. So like I said, this package was $154.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I know you guys are probably going to ask, the gun that this kit is in right now is an Anderson AM-15. You guys have seen this before. If you haven't seen it before, go check it out. We have done a full review on this, and if you guys haven't seen already, we did a full review on all of the budget AR-15s we have and where we stack them. I think we had, what, 5 or 6 different versions of budget AR. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. But as far as this one, we did stick it in the Anderson. If you guys don't know already, it's as simple as taking your back pin, pulling it out, letting the upper sit up. You take your original bolt carrier group out, and you drop in the Cmmg 22 conversion bolt, just like you would your standard bolt, close it up, and you would then use the mags that were given to you by Cmmg.
Yep. Very simple.
Yeah, very simple and pretty cool little system. One thing to note, these mags, I don't know if there are other mags that you can buy that will work with this kit, but these mags do stick up. You'll notice the follower is very tall. That is to hold the bolt open when you get done firing, when the rounds are out, which is cool too, because that allows you to use the gun just like you would with a standard AR-15. It's going to lock the bolt back. Except
when you pull the mag out, the bolt does go back forward.
Which is typical for the majority of 22 AR-15s I've shot. It's usually based off the follower and not any kind of controls on the AR.
But it did consistently lock back when we were on the last round, and then of course, like I said, you pull the mag out, the bolt's going to go back forward.
So the main thing we're going to kind of run through, because there's a lot of stuff you could talk about with this thing. We've covered the price of it. What we're going to cover is the actual reliability of it, because that's a huge deal with 22s.
What you can put it in.
What you can put it in, and then the actual aspects of it, what you would use it for, how usable is it, and then the last thing is, would we recommend this over the alternative, which would be getting a specific built 22 AR-15, like what we have sitting right here, which is an M&P 22. So the first thing we'll go through, do you want to start off with reliability, or do you want to start off with
Let's start off with what you can actually put this in.
Okay.
So a 22 long rifle, it's a 22 projectile, Same thing as a 5.56 and a 2.23. They might be a little bit off, but for all practical reasons, the barrel and the rifling is made to shoot the same diameter projectile. So that's what allows you to use a 5.56 or a 2.23. Obviously, I wouldn't do this with like a 300 blackout or any other different diameter projectile that's going to be bigger. It's not going to run through the rifling, and it's not going to be accurate.
It's more than likely actually going to hit.
It might bounce around.
It's the last thing you want.
So that's what kind of allows you to run this in a standard AR-15. Most AR-15s are going to be a 5.56 or a 2.23, so that makes sense. But you can use your standard charging handle. You don't have to get any specific charging handle. It is a little bit weird pulling it back and it's stopping only about like what, 2 inches of travel,
it's very
you know.
Very short.
So, but yeah, you don't have to order. It is literally as simple as just swapping out the bolt carrier and running these mags. There's no extra parts that you have to run. And it doesn't use the buffer system in a regular AR-15, and you don't have to take the buffer system out. It's just got a little plate welded on the back. It basically cuts that off, and all of the springs and the operating system is within that little bolt.
Yep.
And we can take that out.
It's super cool. Very easy to use. Like he's saying, you could drop it in any 223, 556 AR upper, other than like side charging. You're not gonna be able to put it in a side charging upper. That wouldn't work. But any of the ARs that you have that you wanted to train with and not spend so much money, that's kind of the point of this thing. And that kind of gets to the greatness of this thing is you get to put it in the AR that you want to train with. So your recoil, yes, is going to be a little bit less.
Yes.
But Joshua made it, Joshua was making a very good point when we were shooting it. And he said, you've got your exact stock link, your exact optic you're going to be using, the grip you're going to be using, the trigger you're going to be using. Every control on this, other than the bolt catch, because the bolt catch doesn't work. It's all based off the magazine.
Right.
Every control you're using is the exact same as what you would use when actually firing your true 223 556.
Yep.
So the usability of this thing, the training aspect is just amazing because you're using your exact gun, just a different caliber, little bit different recoil impulse, but again, it's really not that much. And you're using the gun you're going to be using in actual, situations.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I love the thought of it. You're not having to go buy a totally different gun that's going to shoot different, it's going to have a different trigger. You're probably going to put a different optic on it. You're getting to use your actual gun that you're going to be, you have next to your bed or have in your truck, whatever it may be.
The biggest thing for me is, like you said, everything's the same because this might be the setup that you're running on whatever AR you have. But the biggest thing for me is manipulating the trigger, especially for someone who is a new shooter. Let's say you went to like an MMP AR-15. That's going to have a completely different trigger than what you are going to be practicing with. In this instance, I have a PSA single-stage trigger. I like to run single-stage triggers. So that I get to practice with while being low cost, right? And especially for new shooters, you're not going to have the same discipline and the muscle memory of that where it's going to reset and how far you need to pull back and how much poundage and weight and all that. And you get to do that for a lot less money, and you're not having to worry and stress about the recoil. You get the fundamentals down with the trigger, you get fast with the trigger without worrying about recoil, then you can start stepping it up and then include the recoil.
Sure. And going back to your MMP 2.0, those guns are made out of total polymer for the most part. So it's a totally different feel and weight.
Yeah.
When you got this gun completely loaded out the way you're going to use it, it's going to weigh more than what that MMP is going to weigh.
Absolutely.
Especially with the newer ones. This is a little bit older version. But yeah, I mean, I love the thought that went into this, that you get to use your gun, the gun you're going to be, actually having in an actual situation where you would need it. And you're saving a ton on ammo. And that kind of pushes us into the next question is, well, why wouldn't you just, instead of spending the money on this, why wouldn't you just buy ammo? That is a good point, and we hear you. But by the time you really calculate everything, 22 is right now very cheap.
Yeah.
Very, very cheap. And the cost of this little piece being at $150, that's definitely cheaper than buying we typically buy in a 500 to 1,000 round ammo case. So
most places it's going to be 40 cent a round for 223, and as of right now, and then about 8 cent a round for some cheap 22s.
So I would definitely say you're saving money
if you shoot as often as we do, especially.
If you shoot as much as we do. You're definitely saving money. Yes, you're not getting the exact recoil impulse, and we've already touched that, but it's also just really enjoyable to shoot. I had so much fun shooting this thing because 22s, for whatever reason, just make me laugh when I shoot it. You can shoot them so fast and so accurately, and that's another very important point is accuracy. This gun was pretty much almost, it wasn't exactly, but almost completely sighted in. We didn't have to touch a thing. At 50 yards, we were able to hit our dueling tree, hit the dueling, which are about 5-inch plates,
yeah,
5-6-inch plates. Hit those dueling tree targets. So, and then you guys will see in the footage, we backed up to 100 yards and the only difference we had to make was aim at the head, and it was hitting
And
center.
100 yards in the woods is
Much harder.
Much harder. Because you're dealing with,
We've got a
mounds, so there's only like 30% of the target
vines
left.
are hanging off the trees and little sticks everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So this was a very accurate tool because, again, you're using the same rifling that's in your barrel. You're just putting a 22 long rifle bullet through it instead of the 223.
And just speaking on accuracy, right, is the training aspect of it. Like you becoming more accurate without necessarily using your sights. You want it to be a second nature. When you point that out, you know where that round is going. I'm not saying don't use your sights by any means, but the more you get used to it, you're going to know where that bullet's going to go.
Absolutely.
And the more you practice, the tighter and tighter you can control where that bullet's going to go just by pointing the weapon out.
Right.
And you can do that with this at a low cost. Just get those fundamentals down and getting used to pointing it maybe without actually looking at the sight and getting that natural point of aim.
So moving on to, I would normally say reliability is the most important thing. And it, for the most part, 99.9% of the time it is.
Mm-hmm.
Moving into the reliability of this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this because the way I define this is a training tool, not something that I'm gonna put in here and use to protect myself. I'm not gonna go out hunting with it. I'm gonna use this to plink and to play.
We disagree on
At
something.
I mean, that's fine. We typically do. But this is a training tool to me. This is something to go out and to train and to plink and have fun, but also be getting used to your rifle. So the reliability thing is not as big of a deal to me with this kind of thing because I know what I'm using it for. Now, if it was an AR, if it was a 223 and we were just doing the review on the gun and it wasn't reliable, then I'd have a different story. Mm-hmm. But the reliability on this when we first got it was pretty terrible. We had a lot of issues with it not resetting the trigger. It would load the round, but it wouldn't get far enough back to reset the trigger. So we would have, we would pull the trigger and nothing's happening because it didn't actually cock that hammer. Mm-hmm. So we had that happen a few times.
All within the first mag.
Yeah, it was a lot of times within probably the first couple mags. And what we did is to kind of help along the process of breaking it in, because this is not a gun breaking in. This is a piece of equipment that's going inside the gun that has its own springs and it's riding on its own tracks and everything. So while one of us was loading, the other was sitting there racking the charging handle, getting those springs moving, kind of working that metal on metal surface, letting it break itself in without having to sit there and shoot.
Right.
We were just sitting there racking it and kind of polishing up those surfaces. And what we noticed is pretty immediately and drastically, the reliability got so much better.
Yeah.
You would only really have a malfunction when there was a dud 22, which happens all the time.
Especially with cheap ammo.
Cheap ammo, and we were shooting some very cheap ammo. Mm-hmm. We were shooting Federal, I don't know the exact model of the 22, but it was a 36 grain bullet. And I know you 22 guys are going to be upset with that because most people tell you if you're looking at a semi-automatic 22, you need to at least have a 40 grain bullet or a certain feet per second to make sure that it's got enough pressure to rack that system. We were trying to shoot the worst ammo to make sure that it would still run.
Right.
So the reliability definitely got better as we shot.
Yeah, and I want to note too, we literally got it out of the package.
Yes.
Slapped it right in there.
Yep.
No oil, no anything. The malfunctions that we showed and we had on video were the very first shots.
Yep.
And then it got, like Connor said, just so much better. It started breaking in, and then you could run a full mag and it didn't jam at all.
No issues, yeah.
So it definitely needed to be broke in, and probably we should have oiled it or put something on it because it was pretty dry. He did tell me to.
I said to oil it, and he said, no, we're going to run it just like it is, which is dumb. But that's okay.
Hey, it broke in. It broke in.
So we wanted to show you guys what this system looked like. We don't know how YouTube is about, taking this kind of stuff out. They'd probably be upset about it. So we went ahead and cut. But we took this out just to show you guys what it is and talking about why Joshua didn't oil it, because he should have. But as you can see, this is your typical bolt. This looks just like a .223 cartridge that would sit inside the chamber,
Right.
and that round is going to come out of there into your barrel. And this is the actual system that we have. So you have your actual bolt for the 22 itself is sitting right here, and it's sliding on this rail. So when Joshua says it doesn't use the buffer system, that's what he's talking about. This plate, and this doesn't obviously, this plate sits right up against your actual, where your buffer system would be, and there's no movement there. So that bolt just rides on its own rails. And that's kind of what we were talking about when we said that we were polishing that up as we were racking it. Just getting that movement right there. I mean, you guys, it's very smooth. That's what we were trying to do, is kind of skip the process of having to go through the racket, you know, all the malfunctions, trying to skip through that and just speed up the process. And that's what that was doing, is kind of getting, if there was a little burr or anything like that, get that kind of stuff off there. So that's what that system looks like. It simply just goes straight in like your normal bolt.
That's what I can say. We can't show it on YouTube, but it's very simple. I mean, here's your charging handle, and you slide it in that hole, and you push it in.
Push it all together,
put it all back together.
So really cool system. Liked it a lot. You know, the reason I was talking about reliability is, if this is in your mind a training aid, right? This is something that you're going to use to help train with this gun. It almost makes sense for it to malfunction, so that you can learn to clear malfunctions. Now, is it exactly the same as clearing a malfunction with 223? No, but
it might help out with the reaction time.
It did
hey,
help
it
with
didn't go
reaction.
bang.
Right.
I got to
do something. Right. So, no, we don't want products that don't work. We want things that are reliable. But it wouldn't be the worst thing to have something that every once in a while doesn't work, which is more of the actual ammo. That way you learn to clear malfunctions.
It's more inherent with 22.
Right.
But
and I don't want you guys
get
get mad at me. I don't want you guys to get mad at me, because it was just a joke. I do want it to be reliable. You want products that are reliable, so don't get mad.
They don't market this as a single shot. They market it as semi-auto, so you want it to keep going.
Right.
I do want to circle back to one statement you said.
Sure.
You wouldn't use it for hunting.
I wouldn't, because I wouldn't use this gun for hunting.
Let me ask you something.
Sure. Okay.
Why do you think I bought this?
I don't know. You're kind of weird.
So what I kind of had in
What
mind,
I thought is Joshua was smart, and he bought this for a training tool. So
well,
that
that's
he could
part
train.
of it. That's part of it.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I was thinking of is most people, well, not most people, a lot of people, they build out their bug out bags, right? And part of that is a standard AR-15 that they can protect their life with. And, you know, think about how small of a package you can slip that into a bag, and now you got a little hunting setup for small game.
You kill you a squirrel to eat.
Yeah, and you don't need, I mean, ultimately, yeah, I want it to work. And it pretty much did after we broke it in.
We didn't have
it
any
wasn't
issues.
really an issue.
Yeah.
But let's say it only fired one time. If I'm hunting, that's all I really need. And I'm not going to use this to ever defend my life with.
No.
But if you were to slip that in like a little bug out bag, and just in a little bag of some 22s, that's a great way to hunt some small game.
That's a good
So that's why I bought it.
No,
I think that's, you know, a very practical reason. Because if you're taking this with you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use 5.56 if I need to protect my life. But if I need to, you know, a quick little squirrel or something to eat, there you go.
No, I'm glad you said that, because the final question that I have is, if it's doing it all over again and you want a 22 out of an AR, should you buy a 22 AR specific in that caliber, or should you just buy this? And that just pushed me over the edge.
Yeah.
That's a great point. ARs are so nice and versatile, because you can, there's so much you can do with this platform. You're right, you could have this in a backpack, have you a bag of 22s, and you can switch over to 22 in 10 seconds. I mean, that's how fast this can all be swapped out.
Yeah.
So, you know, in my opinion, when it comes to 22 in an AR, I don't think I'd go any other way. Now, if you're wanting some like plinking gun that you never have, super lightweight for some reason, then maybe you should go get one in that's chambered in 22.
Yeah.
But for most people, this is what I would recommend if you're wanting a 22 in an AR-15. This is a great training aid. Like you said, if you really needed it for survival and everything, and you just wanted to go get you some really small game, that's perfect in that case. So I think it's 100% worth the money. I
Absolutely.
think for the money, everybody should go get one. If you already have an AR-15 that's in 223.556, why wouldn't you go spend $150? What I would do is go get the one at Palmetto State that's 179
with
and
3 mags.
get the 3 mags.
That'd be nice.
Because that's the one con
Yes.
that I have to this gun is loading the mags is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
It's a single load. You
Yeah.
have to sit there and shove it in. It scratches up your fingers, and there's no tabs to pull down.
Yeah.
So that's the only
The
thing I
bullets
don't
are
like
so
about it.
they're so tiny, so you're having to like push it down, and it's a round object on a round object, so it's wanting to slide off. It's not too crazy, but yeah, could be better.
I would 100% promote this as something that someone should go out and purchase to train with. And
we had so much fun with it.
I mean, it's
we
great.
really did.
It was so much fun. We enjoyed it, and I'm probably going to go buy myself one because Joshua's not going to give this thing up. He's going to what he's going to do is put this in a go bag and have it for
what's cool
if
too?
something happens.
I think they actually have a certain model for 22 Magnums as well.
Oh, that would be cool. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend it. What would you say? I think we already know your answer.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. And I would actually point most people to buy an actual AR-15 and get that, than to
buy two different.
Yeah, to buy a separate AR-15 22, which a lot of people do.
Yep.
But I would just get that.
Yep. Well, if you guys have any questions about any of the stuff you saw today, let us know down in the comment section. If you want to help out the channel, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you always chamber one.